Hello and welcome back to Bork. I'm Johnny and today I'm going to be talking about the crises dooming our planet. So the planet is currently in its 6th mass extinction ever, which is an ongoing extinction basically of lots of different species as a result of human activity, which is pretty depressing. The current rate of species going extinct is actually estimated at 100 to 1,000 times higher than natural background rates, than if humans weren't doing their thing. So that's pretty shocking what we're doing to animals and plants all around the planet there. And scientists actually say roughly 1 million species of plants and animals face extinction caused by humans. Pretty terrifying. Not a lot of people actually know about that. I certainly didn't realise things were on that scale. So along those lines, I thought I'd put together a short list of other things that might keep you up at night. The first one I'm going to talk about, you will have heard me talk about it before maybe, but it's plastic pollution. Plastic's in waste, it's in our food, it's in our bodies, it's in our drinking water, and it's even in the oceans, fish, animals, and pretty much every creature that lives in the world. So lots of shops are now stopping using plastic bags and making steps like that, but the problem is plastic is so ingrained in every day-to-day aspect of our lives, it's almost impossible to get rid of. My bathroom has, on the side, it has 2, 3, maybe 4 bottles of shampoo. So we have all these bottles of shampoo and maybe once every month or once every 2 months, all of those bottles get used up and we have to buy a whole new range of new ones. That doesn't really sound like much, 4 bottles. But at the same time, if that's happening in our next door neighbour's house and their next door neighbour's house and houses all down the road, houses all across London, houses all across the UK, eventually you're talking about a crazy amount of plastic bottles that are being created every month and thrown away every month. So it's horrific if you think about it, that these things are designed for us to use for such a short amount of time and they don't biodegrade for thousands of years. And we kind of imagine they all go off and disappear, but they don't. They just sit in landfill. Another problem that we have that we all do is every time you wash an acrylic or polyester garment, thousands of tiny particles break off and go down the drain into the sea. Those are eaten by fish and other creatures. Those are eaten again, and eventually they're passed up the food chain to us. So when we eat that, the plastic is absorbed into us, which obviously isn't good for our health because plastic's now polluting humans' bodies all over the planet. Personally, I'm not sure how we're going to fix this because I think even if we start cleaning up the planet now, we're just so dependent on it. I mean, I'm wearing plastic contact lenses right now. My shirt has polyester in it, plastic buttons too. The bagels I had for breakfast came in plastic. The camera Rob's filming this on is plastic. Even my bank cards in my wallet now are made of plastic. So it's pretty easy to kind of pick a trend or a scapegoat to jump on, like plastic straws because they got stuck up a turtle's nose. But the truth is much more dramatic. We need to change the entire way that we live, really, I think, to solve this problem. And it's not just as simple as saying, oh, we need to do a bit more recycling. We need to stop using this kind of plastic product. I think we need to kind of reevaluate everything we do and start over. And sounds dramatic, but you know, I am talking about different crises of various natures, and dramatic action is what's needed to be taken. So for example, I say a dramatic change is needed. I'm trying to make a slightly dramatic change in one aspect of my life, which is eating less beef, chicken and pork, which are all fairly emissions intensive. I'm still eating fish, mainly because you don't hear as much about how that's environmentally intensive. They don't produce as much methane. The processes to actually farm them aren't as visible to us because they're under the sea. So I'm trying to phase out meat from my diet for the sake of the climate, but actually when I was doing the research for this video, I realised fish themselves also have a massive environmental impact, and that's not necessarily in terms of the greenhouse gases that they're producing, but it's because most of the plastic in the sea is actually fishing nets. So more than half of the waste plastic floating around is fishing nets. So we can talk all day about using less straws when we're in McDonald's, but really straws create a tiny proportion of the waste in the sea. And we actually need to change these habits and patterns and behaviours in our lives rather than making token gestures, such as stopping using straws. Talking of diet, the Amazon rainforest is disappearing as well. That's my next crisis. But you might think, diet? What does that have to do with the Amazon rainforest? But about 1 or 2 acres of the rainforest are cleared every second. That's about the size of a football pitch, and unfortunately that's because of animal agriculture, which scientists say is responsible for up to 91% of the forest being cut down. Oh no. So animal agriculture is actually responsible for up to 91% of the Amazon destruction. Pretty shocking statistic, up to 137 plant, animal and insect species are lost every day. The problem isn't just limited to the species that are dying. The fact that Amazon's being cut down could actually have grave consequences for the rest of the world, and it is doing so because it's known as the lungs of the planet. That's because of the amount of carbon dioxide that it converts into oxygen through photosynthesis. So the Amazon actually has a massively important role in tackling climate change, and if it's being cut down, well, it's not going to be able to do that very well. It goes back to what I was saying about beef. Lots of people eat beef as part of every meal, in the UK even, and obviously all of that food can't come from small organic farms in Wiltshire, so a lot of it's shipped over from other countries, from places including Brazil, which is where the Amazon rainforest is, and that beef needs to be grown, those cows need to be grown. And the local people there, most of them don't have much option in what they do. They just want to make a living. Some of them cut down a few trees, keep the dangerous animals away, and grow something useful in what was previously considered wilderness. They might see it like that. They would see a seemingly infinite jungle and they're just cutting down a small part. So it's quite hypocritical for us to go over there and say, oh, you're destroying the planet, you have to stop doing this, without offering any solutions. So I think, yeah, it's up to us really to tackle this one. And unfortunately, for all of you meat lovers out there, which includes me, I think going vegan might be the best way to help tackle this issue in the Amazon. So my next crisis is insects, maybe not in the way you think, because the crisis is that insects are dying and that means an entire ecosystem could be wiped out. There's probably loads of you out there thinking, insects dying, great, no more mosquitoes biting me in my sleep or ants crawling into my house, but listen up because it's not a good thing. Before I get into it, on a purely anecdotal basis, I can actually agree with this one, because maybe I've imagined it, but when I was younger, I remember going out in the garden and there were insects everywhere. You had to struggle not to get stung by a wasp in the summer. There were ants everywhere if you left food out for 2 minutes. There were, butterflies, dragonflies, caterpillars, whatever. And I don't know if this is because I spent more time crawling around in bushes when I was that age than I do now. So this is a problem that, we can see happening in front of us. I used to hear my dad say, driving down the motorway, if you did a long journey from the north to south of England in the summer, when you got to your destination, you'd have to clean the whole windscreen and car because there'd be so many insects stuck to it. So I haven't cleaned my car in about 6 months, but there are no bugs on it. There's loads of dust and a bit of mud and soot from the London air, but there's no bugs on my car at all. And I do long motorway journeys all the time. So these are anecdotes. There's no scientific proof from what I'm saying right now, but there definitely, to me, seems like there's a lot less insects flying about in the air. And scientists, as it happens, would agree with me. Yeah, so scientists say that the insects are dying will wipe out other ecosystems and disrupt massive food chains, which unfortunately means we can say goodbye to a majority of other species. And that's because insects, like every flowering plant needs bees to pollinate it. And you need bees flying around everywhere to pollinate plants, and that is the first stage of the food chain, really, that all other animals get their nutrients from. And now, unfortunately, with the cities we're creating kind of urban deserts where people manicure their lawns very carefully. They might not have native plants growing in their hedgerows. And so for a bee, this is like a massive desert of space that they can't really cross or live in. Because there's no native plants that they can pollinate, get their food from, and that leads the bees to starve to death and die. So there's no bees around, so who's going to pollinate the flowers? The answer is not us and no one. So around 40% of insect species are currently threatened with extinction. That's largely as a result of habitat loss. We've also got problems like pesticides, invasive species, and of course climate change, which seems to be affecting everything. But yeah, those are the main reasons insects are dying. You know the way these things go. We'll probably end up being stuck with mosquitoes and cockroaches once all the bees have died, because they're the insects we don't want to be stuck with. But hey, on the bright side, they're full of protein and a great low carbon snack. So maybe they'll help us shift our diets in the future. I'm hoping one day, because the insects are dying, leading to other species going extinct, I'm hoping other animals don't become less common. But I was reading a report and scientists were talking about how suburban wildlife could actually become a thing of the past, where you might have to trek to a mountain to see a hedgehog or visit a zoo to see a fox. Obviously that's pretty dramatic, but that's the level scientists say, that's the level of importance that insects actually hold in our habitat, because they there's plants and then insects and then everything else. They provide the foundation for other life, and if they disappear, a lot of other life will disappear too. So yeah, not good news. So you might be glad to know that's the end of my crises list for today. There are other crises out there happening as we speak, but I'll save those for another video. So I think my takeaway from having done this research myself and reading more about the problems happening to the planet and us is that a lot of them are hidden, these issues, and they will only really be acted upon on a massive scale when it's impossible to avert our eyes anymore, such as the floors covered in dead insects, the Amazon rainforest is on fire, you know, these dramatic tipping points. But I think in the meantime, the best thing you can do really is to stay educated about it, watch more videos like this, read the sources for all the facts I've cited in the description, and talk to your friends and family about it. See if they think there's less insects stuck to the front of their windscreen nowadays, or ask them when the last time they got stung by a wasp is. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment and let us know what you think, and thank you for watching another episode of Bork. See you next time. If you watched and enjoyed the video, watch the rest of our channel, click everything, subscribe, like it. Thank you.